All right, welcome back to another episode of Knicks Morning Coffee Recap. All right, we got to talk a little bit about the game last night. Minnesota handed us another loss. Um, as much as I hate to say it, we are in the midst of a win one, lose one situation. Since the 9-game winning streak, since the 3-game losing streak, that's where we at. Somehow, some way, we got to get out of this type of a slump and get back to winning basketball. Um, Last night was the return of Julius Randle to the Garden. He got a much welcome standing ovation. I was glad to see that for him. He didn't look to score much. He didn't even look to shoot much. So I don't know what that was all about. One thing I did find interesting was that on several occasions, Jalen Brunson got switched on to Randle in the pick and roll situations. So I don't know, was that by design by Minnesota, or was that what was that? Like, I thought that was interesting. But nonetheless, we lost. Now, one of the things about that game I did like was that it was a playoff type atmosphere. I mean, both teams were going after it. It just looks like, they had the upper hand from the 3-point shooting. But I like the way our guys was playing. I like the way that we came out. Individually, guys was doing very well. I mean, Jalen Brunson, he came out on fire. I thought he sat too long when he went to the bench. Everybody was doing pretty good. Even the centers, they wasn't hurting us. Precious, when he came in, he was looking for his shot, which is a nice surprise for us because the past 3 or 4 games, he's been kind of attacking the basket. And if he wasn't attacking the basket, he was making the effort. And that's what we need from our backup centers. We need guys to at least look for your shot because it keeps the defense honest. And he was doing that. Mikal Bridges, he was hitting his threes in the beginning, and that was nice and sharp. OG, to me, I think something's wrong with OG because his shot, it was already really a one-handed 3-point shot, but it's not accurate like it was last year. But it seemed like whatever sleeve he got on his shoulder or on his forearm, I think it's something about his shot that's just not there. And it's like an effort, seems like, for him to get it off. So whatever it is, I just hope that it subsides so he can at least get back to the total game that he was playing for us last year and earlier in the season. Campaign came in, induced to, but Campaign, he came in and he definitely made a case for when changes are made, if changes are made, that he needs to stick because we're going to need him in the playoffs. We're going to need that veteran leadership and that sharp shooting and that willingness to take the shot. And I said this the other day, and I like him. I'm telling you, I like him. And he's gritty, and we need that. We need them gritty type guys to stay on our team and be that way because we fall into a lull sometime of overpassing. And last night was a prime example of that too. It's nice when you're doing it, but we had to match their energy of putting up shots. And sometimes certain people got to take over the game. And Campaign was doing that. You gave him a little bit of room and he was pulling it. So I like that. I don't like the loss, but I wasn't as down with this loss as I was previous one because of the way we played. Like we stayed in the game. It was just a matter of consistency on the shot. But and hats off to Minnesota. Minus Julius Randle, he was just looking to distribute last night. Even I wasn't even mad at what Ant-Man was doing because he played a solid game. 30-something points, but he wasn't really bringing it to us. He was just, setting us up and taking his shot. He has Jordan-like ability, Kobe-like ability, but he for some reason, he don't want to display it. So that's good for us. But when a person knows they're going to shoot, there ain't really too much you can do in this league. So that was the difference for me. For them, they knew that whatever their game plan was, pull it. I don't care what kind of defensive stance the Knicks are in, pull a shot, and it was pull it and making it. But again, it was a playoff type atmosphere. It was good to see that we was hanging in there with them. I know that they're barely over 500, but they still a good team. And when you got a center like Gobert and a guy like Ant-Man, and you throw in Julius Randle, it's not an easy team to beat. Now, especially when you without your big man. Cat didn't play again last night, but now we blew them out in Minnesota. But we knew it was going to be a little bit more difficult because we can't match them down low without Cat. So I'm glad that whatever our game plan was, it looked like the Knicks stuck to it. It just wasn't enough consistency. But everybody played well. and so I go back to Deuce. I like to see Tibbs go back to having Deuce pick up a little bit earlier, because when we bring in Deuce and we still have OG and Mikal Bridges out there, it should be very hard for teams to score on the perimeter on us. Like, we have two very good perimeter players on defense, and if you put Deuce at the head, the guys are walking into too many threes. So maybe we should move it up a little bit, move the defense up, and give them something to think about, and then make them make a play that way. Just to pull threes and hit them, we just can't keep sitting back and letting them do that. Now, I understand the rotation threes that teams get on us, because Tibbs like his weak side man with a foot in the paint, and the way that ball swings with other teams, it's hard to get back. So I'm not even at total fault with that, because we're at full health, it was working for us. But I just think we should extend our defense up a little bit, just to give teams something to think about and disrupt their rhythm. So if we take a look at the tail of the tape last night to show you kind of how close the game was, in the percentage column, the Wolves shot 53% and we shot 8%. 3 points, they shot 55%, we shot 41. Free throws, they were 71%, we were 88. Rebounds, they had 46, we had 41, which we should, can't really win that battle without Cat. Because as much as Josh Hart gets you a lot of rebounds, he was ailing a little bit last night, so he couldn't be his total self. In the assist column, they were 23, we were 19. Again, that's going to go down when you don't have Cat, because Cat gets a lot of buckets around the basket, and then also his shooting is pretty efficient. So he's just not going to you're not going to win that battle. Steals, they had 5, we had 10. Turnovers, they had 15, we had 9. A lot of ours came late. Like, we played 3/4 of the game with barely even getting a turnover, so that was good for us. It shows that guys was on point and moving their feet. Sometimes they say when you don't get fouled, you're not playing defense, and that's not always true. Points in the paint, 36 to 34, that's to be expected without Cat. And so that just goes to tell you that they won the game at the three-point line. Their three-point efficiency, it looked better than the numbers, right? So everybody that was putting them up was making them. And it would just seem like it was nothing we could do to stop it, especially when they was determined to shoot. Now, I look at some of the guys we got on the bench. Ryan's on the bench. Shamit's on the bench. Tibbs has to find a way to get them shooters in there and give them the green light and run the certain offense that gets those guys open, because you don't have to lose a game that way. And I would like to see our guys just pulling it a little bit more. Again, you can only score if you shoot. And our guys are pretty efficient when they shoot the ball, but we just can't keep swinging. If you're wide open, take the shot. Now, if you're swinging it and the guy's open down low, it's different. But we have to show Minnesota we're struggling to get a three-point shot and wide open. And if we make it, we're missing it. And then they just coming down in traffic and just pulling it and making it. So we have to match that energy. But the overall part of the game, the Knicks played a pretty good game. And even at the end score, it looks a little bit lopsided. The score definitely looked closer than that. And we actually took the lead and fought to get the lead back on an occasion or two, but we didn't get over the hump. And not having Cat hurt, but that still was a winnable game. If we could have just matched them shot for shot. And even when we were doing it, if you remember in the second quarter, I kind of knew that wasn't going to hold. Like, I knew we wasn't going to keep shooting like that, because it was the way that we was hitting the threes. That's not us, the way that we were doing it. So Minnesota did their job. Now, if you're asking me, we play again Monday. We play the Hawks. Now, if you're asking me which game I would rather get, I would rather get the Hawks game, because it's just something about Trae. Like, two people get under my skin. Trae Young, for some reason, and Indiana Halliburton. For some reason, they just get under my skin, because they're really not Nick nemesis, but they want to be. They want to be the villain in Madison Square Garden. And Trae is on his way, but it seems like they go a long way in their efforts to try to be that. And then when they beat us and win, it's just too much for me. So I definitely want to get that game Monday. That's just a pride one for me. But that will still put us back in the win one, lose one, win one, lose one. And we got to find a way to shake that. And if help is on the way, I know Mitch is, probably less than a month away from coming back. But TJ Warren, to me, down in the G League, if you're not going to play those guys on the bench, bring that guy up because you know he's going to shoot. You know, he finds himself in all type of situations throughout his career where he can get a bucket, and at least he's going to look for it. So we not lost. We still, we still in third place. We still in pretty good. If you sit us in the West, we're not in second in the West anymore. Now we probably fell down to, 3 or 4, but we can worry about the West later. So there's no need to panic. It's just that let's just keep fighting and get over the hump and pray that we don't trade Mitch and he come back with that rim protection, that guys will be able to extend themselves a little bit more in defense because you know what's back there. Then we're going to be all right. But we don't want to fall too much. Milwaukee's on our heels. Orlando, they got their team back, so they'll be coming. And before yesterday's game, we was only 2 games behind Boston. So it's not imperative that we pass Boston yet, but just stay pace. And I said that the other day. Just stay pace so when you go on that nice run again, you can surpass Boston and maybe even catch Cleveland. Because at some point, Cleveland going to have to slip a little bit at some point. But those are the guys that we have to look at. Half of the season, we in the second half part of the season. To me, the second half of the part of the season, for me, typically don't start till after the All-Star break. But we talking about 41, 42 games, we at that point. So, again, not a devastating loss. Just the fact because you're home, you want to get it. We can say, okay, Cat wasn't there, but we're good enough to beat some teams without Cat. All right, so tell me what y'all think about last night's game. Also, my partner, Joe Cool, he's feeling under the weather. So if you can, just give him a shout out, in the comments. But until next time, let's go Knicks.